Hi, this is Kiran Mandral. We're here today to discuss why we need more women in Indian politics. And to chat with us today, we have Priyanka Chaturvedi from the Shiv Sena and Shelly Chopra, the founder of She the People TV. Hi, Priyanka. Welcome to the conversation.
Hi Kiran, thank you so much for inviting me.
Our pleasure. And hi, Shelly. Good to see you back here again on the other side of the table for the change since the morning. So the conversation is something that is very important and very crucial to all of us in Indian politics and as citizens, as people who have been watching the political scene. We see a lot of women in terms of voter participation, in terms of women involved in what is happening around us and being affected by what is happening around us in terms of policy, in terms of positions at the highest level. But the most obvious question is we do not see enough women in politics. And Priyanka, I've seen your journey from the past 10 years. I've seen how you've moved through the rank and file and come now to the Rajya Sabha. Congrats on that. Why do you think there is this barrier at every stage for women to go through? And from your personal experience, what do you think it is that deters women from getting into the political space in India?
I've tried to answer this question multiple times, and I've thought over it many number of times myself as to why is it that women don't come forward and join politics. There's women do not trust the space, and for obvious reasons, it has been so male dominated. Women who are on these platforms or in political spaces do not get enough chances. They're not even considered winnable candidates when it comes to election time or whenever they need to ask for something, they need to keep proving themselves time and time again. While the same is not the case for men. Secondly, because of it being so male dominated, we've seen how women when you talk about the power table, women are usually missing. So most of the times we see people when they're talking about election candidates, they're talking about bringing women into organizational spaces, giving them important roles. They're usually not even considered important. So that is why women tend to think 10 times. Secondly, even the financial security. There is no financial security, that goes along with political space. Then thirdly, there's this uncertainty of space. They don't know where they will be tomorrow, 10 days down the line, or if there's some political camp which is working against them, they could just pull her down and she doesn't even know where her career is going. So these are a few things which I've realized personally I have faced as well, which deters a lot of women, and many women I speak to also tell me that Priyanka, this is not something we want to be in. So that's part one of why we see lesser women in that space. I also feel that the lack of opportunities makes it a more male-dominated space. Men tend to fill in those spaces. Women need to keep fighting. So I think these are some issues which we really need to look at holistically, encourage more women to be in spaces. And the change will not come by giving them, election tickets. So the change would come when you hold them, give them important positions in the organization, bring them on the decision-making table. When tickets are distributed centrally, both the National Party, the Bharatiya Janata Party, and the Congress Party, usually when they decide on election tickets, it's totally dominated by males. Again, there are very few women who are taking that call. So once we streamline this better and lip service, we've seen so many political parties paying lip service to something. Don't really see actionable. I saw that with TMC. I thought Trinamool Congress went and did the 50% reservation, which was brilliant. We saw that with BJD. So regional parties are showing us the way on how to get more women, even without the reservation system in place. So if we can do that, and we can take the onus, and we can take that responsibility, we perhaps see more women in these spaces. I'd like to say Shiv Sena also, till now, being considered a very male-dominated party. 50% of our corporators are women in the municipal corporation, which is not a fact that many know. MLAs also, we're grooming a lot of women leaders to go on to take these spaces in the legislative assembly. So we are trying our best to even encourage more women to come into political leadership roles. So this is how it will work. It will have to come from within political parties.
That's very interesting, actually, when we say that, there is perhaps an inkling that we need more women in politics. There is lip service, but, the actionables is where the gap is between women being more participatory in politics and not being visible. I also know, Priyanka and Shelley, I like Shelley to take this one, that despite the fact that India is a patriarchy and women definitely have to fight much more to be seen and to be visible, but this same situation also does exist in a country like the United States, where,
Yes.
participation of women in electoral politics is not as equal as it should be. Do you think there's a leadership gap that happens when women in this space, that women themselves are very hesitant to put themselves out there, whether it is the United States, whether it is India? Is it a culture? It goes across cultures. What is your take on this?
Yeah, so, I'll just look at some numbers, right? I mean, in the period between 1984 to 2007, we've seen about 5%, being female candidates in India, okay? The numbers have slightly improved, at least in terms of prominent roles being held by them in the last 5 to 7 years. And also the conversation on the need for more women in politics emerging on the forefront. But if you look at some of the OECD data, you will notice that some of the top countries don't anywhere include the United States. Even if you were to look at the way one is looking at the numbers, actually I'm looking at them while speaking to you. It's now the below 10 on the OECD chart for women in politics. That's where United States features. Which are the top countries featuring there? France, Canada, Sweden, Slovenia, Denmark. What it tells us in many ways is that the trends on women and equality of women in politics is no different from having that in society in many ways, right? There's this impression that superpowers are very, very equal. But, when I was part of the Australia dialogue, I was surprised to hear how big this issue is over there and how little is being done about it. One gets this impression sitting in India that, we as developing nations have a long way to go on gender equality. Somehow I feel even if we are not captured in the overall data, the conversation here is far more protracted than I feel has been the case in US at least till about 5 years ago. So I think both ways, whether one looks at in terms of notionally speaking, has United States had its first female president? No. So if one looks at that, that's one piece of it. But the other larger piece of it is what is the larger number of base looking like? Are we adding more women out there? I think that's what is hoping to change. And I think, having people like Priyanka go from being party members to spokespersons and now to the Rajya Sabha and many others, the one thing I think they all come together on is this matter. They might have differences on other issues, but at least on this case, they are sort of unified as party members.
That's very interesting, actually. Given the statistics, while we do feel fewer women candidates, Shelley and Priyanka, and we have seen, but their winnability, something that they say is a factor. Women candidates do tend to win the seats that they stand for. The fact is, this hesitancy with political parties to consider women unless they're proxies is something that is
Absolutely.
common in Indian politics. Would you like to comment on that, Priyanka?
Absolutely. So there are a couple of things, a couple of points that Shelley was making, and they're very important points. Many of the developed countries are also facing the same challenge that Indian women face. However, if we look at the African subcontinent, where we see Rwanda, etc., where they've implemented the reservation system, including Pakistan, including Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, they have introduced some kind of a reservation system which has seen more women participation. Even in India, at the panchayat levels, the local body levels. Why do we see more women participation? We see more women participation because we are blocking that space for women. We're not allowing the men to even, take that space. So the women cannot cede that space even if they do not want to come out in large numbers. So we're giving them that platform. So there are two ways to do this, and it is a fact, Kiran, that when it comes to even deciding on tickets, there are very few and far between women who come forward and want to contest. A, because they're lacking in self-confidence. B, they have a sense of responsibility that will we be able to fulfill that responsibility. You don't see that happen with males. You see them coming from a point of confidence, telling you, हम तो ये जीतने ही वाले हैं, सबसे बड़ा नंबर से जीतने वाले हैं, deposit जब्त कराने वाले हैं. And women are more cautious. Women are like, can I take this responsibility? And if I take this responsibility, will I be able to fulfill the expectation of my political party? Those are a few mindset changes that women also really need to do, which is very difficult but has to happen. conditioning their mind. It should be the entire conditioning should be coming from a point of winning and point of confidence that they can do this. The second problem I also see is, and I'll be very honest about it, that women in political spaces, I will not comment about corporate spaces, but women in political spaces do not support other women. There is a huge space for women. There is a huge space for women. Of course, there are very few women who are in positions of strength. But most of the time when it comes to sharing networks, sharing ideas, or coming together on the same common platform, you find them reluctant to do so. So those are a few things which we need to consider when we discuss about more women participation. And of course, the financial and the kind of trolling, the kind of public slandering that happens at times is another factor that we need to see a cultural mindset change.
Yeah, that's something that's prevalent, I think, for ages, unless we sort of desexualize a woman and you make her a amma or a didi or something that's not threatening. She doesn't seem to find a space in Indian politics. That has been the traditional long-held view, but thankfully I see the younger generation of women out there and being perfectly feminine and perfectly attractive and reaching the Rajya Sabha like yourself, Priyanka. So you've been observing the space for a long time, and what is the kind of change you've seen over the years? I mean, we were one of the earliest countries to have a female prime minister. All these years, in terms of icons, we've not been short of icons in the public space. But why hasn't this translated into a trickle-down effect on the legion of women in the lower rungs of political space?
That's because we only look at them as icons, nothing that we learn from them, or no systems have been created to create many more women icons. That is a huge problem. And even these political parties which have, which talk about first woman president, first prime minister, first defense minister, whatever we keep hearing about. Where is your system? Where is a pipeline to groom more women leaders to come forward and take charge and give them that sense of feeling, that sense of responsibility that we are investing in them as future leaders? So this is something which is not happening in, I can say this in most of the most spoken about political parties. Yeah, which again, like I said, is a challenge and something that political parties need to realize that it is women who have struggled in these spaces, who have not given up, who have been consistent, who will not cede the space, are the women who manage to create space for themselves. You have seen the 10-year struggle that I've had. I have changed the political party. I've changed it because I believe that I have to serve my nation. I have some particular ideas which can perhaps uplift the society that we live in and perhaps be an example for many more women who are struggling out there wanting to make space for themselves. So if I have to change my political space, my political platform, as long as my entire intent of being able to serve the nation is achieved, I will do it. And I will do it only, and I'll be able to do it only if I come from a position of strength. And that is what is important. And
yeah, that's so interesting.
That is what we really need to consider. Stop feeling guilty about being ambitious. Stop feeling guilty about your ideas.
Absolutely. Stopping being guilty about it. I mean, Shelley, given this interesting perspective that Priyanka just spoke about, that there is no sisterhood in politics for women. In the corporate spaces, we're just about starting to talk about the sisterhood and networking that women need. How do you see this as something that can be developed from the outside as an observer? And do you think that networking in politics would be an oxymoron? I mean, a sisterhood in politics would be an oxymoron, so to speak?
So, I want to very briefly give you that answer because I know Khushbu is ready to join the broadcast. So, maybe we'll get her in. And let's see. There we go. Khushbu, can you see us? Talk to us now.
Hi, Khushbu. It's good to have you here with us.
Thank you. Hi, Priyanka.
Hi, Khushbu.
Don't ask me. I've been in a bad shape, man. Cleaning, swapping, mopping, everything, all the work. So you women look so fresh, and look at me how I am.
You look good.
I just made garlic bread.
So, well, I suppose it just helps to just keep some powder cake around here too.
Nothing. I'm sweating profusely. But let's start. It's very interesting topic what we're going to discuss.
Yeah, so Khushbu, I just asked Priyanka this a little while ago about the fact that why is it that when we have so much, I'd like your perspective also. Of course, you came from a position of popularity, from being a movie star, from having a fan base, but you've created your own niche in politics. Why do you think we have so much participatory politics from women, but not women in politics per se? What are the barriers that women face when they get into politics, in your observation?
I think the main problem is the support of the family. We still have a very patriarchy attitude of men at home, where they feel that nahi yaar, women have to be at home. Unka to politics mein jayegi, so it's going to be 24-hour job. Who's going to look after the children? Ghar chauka kaun karega? That mindset still exists in most of the places. So, and it more so because when you look at the educated clan, very few women would want to come in because they are very comfortable in their AC rooms, sitting in their comfort levels and talking from there. Getting down to the ground reality, going down to the streets, sitting in the middle of the crowd and getting the lathi charge and the pushes and everything, what me and Priyanka have seen. Not many are ready to go through that. And the people who are ready to do that belong to a family which has this patriarchy mindset. So I think that's one of the reasons why we don't see many women coming into it.
What can be done, do you think? We've had women who have been in senior positions, we've had a female prime minister, we've had women leading the states, and we've had role models, so to say. But the fact is, at the base level, at the bottom level, where you enter politics, the barrier is right there, as you say, A, for the patriarchy, B, when they enter the parties. What are the steps that a woman faces? Is there hesitance to give her authority? Is there hesitance to let her take on positions of power? We've lost Khushbu again. Priyanka, would you like to take that further?
Yes, of course, there is immense, I would say, barriers in the sense of mentality that would she be able to do it? Would she be committed to the cause? Won't she just leave everything for her family? Would she be able to give 24/7 to politics? Would she be able to work longer hours? And would she just drop out? Because there have been instances where women can't handle that stress. And we've seen times where there has been immense stress, like when the Maharashtra government was being formed. So those are moments of stress, and those are times when a woman can feel overwhelmed. But those are things which, again, are just excuses that are made to keep women away from giving positions of power, authority, and important senior profiles within the organization. Khushbu's back now, she'll be able to tell you better.
Yeah. So, Khushbu, the same question that I just asked you. Okay. Why do you think is this hesitance within political parties to get women onto positions of influence and power? Even just the simple thing about, appointing spokespersons, appointing people in actual positions of power within the party, that's very hard fought for. Can we hear her? I think there's some. Can you hear us, Khushbu? Okay. Shelly, could you just let us know from your observations in terms of, seeing how the political scene is playing out and, policies have been changing. There's reservations everywhere. There's a talk of 33% reservation for women in parliament, and which is just, been going on and on. What do you think the female voter in India needs to do to be taken seriously to be represented seriously?
So, there's been a lot of work on this front, and I think in the last election as well, we too were quite involved in getting some on-ground data. It does appear that there's no dearth per se of the potential desire to explore this space. Where the challenge lies is that women are hardly exposed to what are the rules, how do you make a start, what kind of various stages of political careers could they participate in. So, politics is not just about being in Lok Sabha or Rajya Sabha. You have politics in our tier 2 model of the federal state at various levels where women can participate. So that's one. I think the second part of it is that while on one hand men have a patriarchal approach to it, women also are a little anxious because in politics, as one girl told me who stood for the panchayat elections, that I can't go as a woman to the chai wala put my arms around the other politician or the other voter and go and have, a slurpy cup of chai. So when such scenarios emerge, they feel that they are left out because, these small colloquial behaviors really become a big benefit for for men. Now imagine this will only change if, just like in corporate life, we've always said, why do women have to go to the smoking room even if they're not interested in smoking, right? Or whatever, watering hole, or the parties at night. I
Yeah.
think when there are enough women in the business, then women start dictating the rules. They say, come and meet me for lunch. I'm not interested in having a drink in the evening. I have other things to do, right? So I think if that changes, perhaps that could help a little bit, but that will only change when we see those large numbers. So I think one piece of change that we ought to see, hopefully in the next election, and that basically means sometime now, so that it builds up to it, is that the way we told women to go out and vote in big numbers, we need to go out and tell women to participate in big numbers. I think that will be an important change.
There's a question we have. I'm going to have Priyanka take it. Yamini is asking, will COVID-19 finally make the world address the calm and clarity that women bring to leadership? Oh, Khushbu's back, so Khushbu can take that as well.
Yeah, I didn't hear you.
There's a question we have, Khushbu, from Yamini, which says, will COVID-19 finally make the world address the calm and clarity that women bring to leadership?
COVID-19 or no COVID-19, I don't think it's going to bring in a change in the leadership world over. Very rarely we see where men are strong enough to allow a woman to overrule them and go ahead of them and take the charges as a leader. So COVID-19 is not going to change anything. Just after the COVID-19 is over, I'm sure most of the men are going to be like, "Arey yaar, all these days you were sitting at home, so now you rather continuously the house is better, the cook is better, you have looked after the house better, so you continue doing what you're good at." I think this mindset needs to change basically. People need to understand that you don't need a pandemic, you don't need any kind of a natural disaster for them to realize that women can actually address the crowd better. You should understand the simple thought that if the women can manage a home single-handedly, I think she can manage the entire country also. She has that strength within her. She did not depend on anybody. But it's just that politically, what I have been in politics for 10 years, what I have seen is men get very intimidated when you have a woman who speaks well, who is very sure of what she wants, and she wants to work on her lines, and it's not about power or anything. Just that somebody like me, who has been there, seen the crowd, seen the fame, made my money, and I don't have to go out of my way to be nice to people. So I think they get very intimidated that you get the crowd, and the minute you finish your speech in a public meeting, the crowd leaves. So it gets very for men, they feel very I don't know, they feel very the ego comes in between, and they're like, "Arey yaar, the minute she leaves, the crowd goes." So the best is avoid them. You're there at somewhere in a public meeting, and it's your speech which is hitting the front page and not somebody else's. So I have personally seen that with the men becoming completely insecure. The insecurities start coming out very, boldly, and you get to see they make it very evident. And let me tell you, men do not hide their egos. They make it very evident because they want the women to read, "Okay, I am egoistic and you're rubbing me your popularity or the way you speak, you're rubbing me the wrong way. So you better stay away." And so I have seen this. So I think this is not going to change at all. It takes a very, very strong-hearted man to accept a woman to say that it's okay, you go ahead of me and take charge. I don't know when this is going to change. We have seen it world over. We have seen it everywhere. Until unless the men and the people around this stop being judgmental about women, I think this is going to continue.
That's a very important point you make, Khushbu, about the judgmentalism. And I'm sure both of you have faced it all these years because you'll have come from non-political, non-dynastic families. So you'll have had to fight your own path. In terms of, Priyanka, when you got into politics, I mean, you had absolutely zero public exposure, so to speak. Khushbu Firbi, you were there in the public space as an actress and you had your fan following, you have your temples, people knew you. But Priyanka, you came from grassroots worker level. In that
Yes.
when you had to climb up into politics, when you had to make your be a spokesperson, when you had to be taken seriously, did you find the same patriarchy that Khushbu talks about in terms of not being allowed that space to express
No,
yourself?
I'll tell you one very important change that I have seen in terms of leadership. See, everything comes to leadership. It's how leadership wants to groom you, and are they looking at you from a gender lens or they're looking at you from a leadership lens. That is very important. Leadership has to be gender neutral. To have the capability, you'll shine through whatever the barriers might be. Of course, I've faced patriarchy. I have faced the worst, and those were reasons which I believe that if I don't stand up for my own dignity and honor and self-respect, what am I teaching the younger generation, or what am I teaching my daughter? That it's absolutely all right for men to just come walk over you, say all kinds of rubbish to you, character assassinate you, make insinuations about you, start rumors about you, just because you are doing particularly better than they are. And the entire reluctance of handing over charge to a woman, I have seen every single male I have dealt with. But in terms of leadership, can I just say one thing? And it is such a refreshing change. I was sitting with Aditya ji once, and Aditya ji told me that, Priyanka, do not reduce yourself to just women issues. You have to talk about finance. You have to talk about foreign policy. You have to talk about every single space where women are not being heard about. Why aren't we talking about commerce industries? Why aren't we talking about SMEs? Why are women not claiming that space with equal authority as men do? So I would rather want you to speak on all these issues, and this is how Sustaina should be doing it women. And why should women be relegated to just fighting for themselves or fighting about this entire from the gender narrative? So I think that is very important. When you have a leadership which is telling you that we have immense faith in you to be able to speak on all the subjects that you are well read in, and you'll be able to bring content to, you will be able to bring value to, and we'll be able to do justice to who you are. I think that is what matters. Where you create that space and you make a woman feel that you have to go beyond these, gender-based narratives. So I think that in itself helps a lot. There's a sense of confidence, and also makes you believe that there are many places where you can contribute, and you can make spaces for women to come forward, whichever their area of interest might be, area of learning might be, area of leadership might be. They'll be able to contribute in political spaces through policy making.
That's very important. Don't box yourself up into women's issues. Talk across the board. Talk finance. Talk commerce. Talk everything. Be involved with it. I'm going to take one question, Khushbu. This young intern with us, Savitri, is asking, "What's your message to young girls who wish to enter into politics in the future?"
Just go for it. You have to be mentally strong and prepared because, like Priyanka said, there are going to be men all over trying to trample you, walk over you, try to show you this is where you belong, and you're not supposed to go beyond that. But you have to be strong, you have to believe in yourself and say that this is what I am, and I'm going to speak on every issue because this is not about women. It's not right that you say that a woman has to talk only about issues which are related to women. I think if you had Indira Gandhi, who was leading the country and how the country flourished under her leadership, I think we should make sure that women have very, very strong abilities to take the country forward. And I really want a lot of women coming. It's not about which political party we choose. I mean, that I leave it to them because they all have their beliefs and they all have their ideas and their ideologies. It's just that be firm in what you're doing, get into it, and just keep walking. And one most important thing, which I think even Priyanka would agree with me, is do not be yes, sir, yes, ma'am. You have to have a clear mindset. If there is something wrong, even within a party, have the courage to speak up and say we are going wrong. I think that is what is important. The minute you become yes, sir, yes, ma'am, thank you, ma'am, and I think then the problem starts where people really, really want to write you off. I think you have to have a strong mind, you have to have a strong will and the power to say wrong is wrong. Call us. You have to have that
Yeah,
power.
that's very important. Ask the tough questions. Don't be hesitant to step back. Shelly is here. Shelly, I really wanted to know from you when you've been at Stanford, when you've been doing going internationally and talking about the status of women in India and the fact that we have the largest democracy and so many women, I mean 50 million women out here to be represented. As a journalist who has been covering the space for so long, do you see states or do you see places where women are in charge have better policies in terms of women, or do you see that as something that doesn't really affect how women's policies happen in those states?
So I think there are both things to look at, right? There's one where women are driving the policy. There's one where more women get impacted as an outcome of policy. So for the first one, where women are in leadership, I think a great example is what we're seeing today in the world. We are in a massive crisis globally with this pandemic. Women prime ministers, presidents of various countries across the world, including New Zealand, have already moved ahead and announced packages well before various other countries have woken up to it. There is no denying, according to me, and I certainly feel this as a woman myself, that many women spend a lot more time thinking about community at large, the greater common good. Yes, there are those who may be still very much the Rambo in their jobs, but there are many and enough who work at the front lines and continue to think, in a far more widespread, less selfish manner. So I think if one goes by various studies, whether it's the McKinsey one or the ones that have been done consequently, the idea of the kind of leadership that women bring to the table is more wholesome. It looks at aspects that go beyond let's say bottom line to top lines. And increasingly, it's been proven that it's important to have those elements to get the serious growth in place. Because if numbers have to be delivered, you could potentially get a computer to start just looking at those numbers, right? Who's going to bring feelings into people and keep people together? The other side of it is, if it's not just about the leadership, but the kind of policies that impact women. I think we've had some good policies in India. Whether it's this government in the past, the Ujjwala scheme is now considered a success story at the several levels. I think that was directly aimed at women. Politics apart, one does see a lot of women mention that. I think state governments specifically are looking at different political parties targeting women and trying to put the money in the hands of the woman as opposed to the man. I think these are all efforts that help the nation in its small bits and pieces, because they are trying to impact a population that's basically trying to justify that whole adage. You put something in the hands of a woman and you're feeding the family, you're educating the family, and so on and so forth. And it's true. I mean, no matter how often we've heard it, and it tends to fall on deaf ears in a country like India, because you have 750 million women, which is twice the size of United States as a whole. So, the numbers are so big that we start getting immune to these. But the truth is, that's how we have to take a country like India together. If we truly change a lot on the ground for women, I feel that a lot will change households like how.
Absolutely, that's very important. Putting the power in the hands of the women, both the electorate, also the women in the political space. I'm going to take two questions here. The first for Khushbu: can this crisis be a game changer in bringing women to the forefront of politics by the way we deal with COVID-19? You just
I can just answer that. We all have been thinking about gender equality, but when you look at it, actually, uh, there's no gender equality, whether it was the past government or you look at the current government. We, we don't even have 33% of women representing us in the parliament or any of the ministries. So what equality are we talking about? I mean, we don't have anybody, any of the government, whether the past or the present, where we can say that we're talking about gender equality and giving equal chances women to work and be at par with men. So this will continue. We have to fight, and the minute there's one ministry for women, there is one position for women, and then we are immediately fine with it. Okay, it's perfectly fine. We are happy with it, and oh yeah, we are celebrating because there's a woman minister, there's a woman who has been given some kind of responsibility, and we are happy. We celebrate that. We still do not understand there's no gender equality here. We're still fighting for that.
And very interesting. There's a question on trolling Priyanka, and I just want Priyanka to take that one because you know.
I think some university should just hand over a PhD to me for this particular thing. I should call a doctor. No, but trolling. Yes, trolling.
How should we deal with abuse?
It affects you. I mean, people don't realize this, and women we are because we are in politics, we're supposed to be thick-skinned, etc. But I'm extremely sensitive by nature. This is something that I have been, and it affects me. Whenever I I read some nonsense written about me, it just impacts me a lot. But I have conditioned my mind over a period of time that I am not going to be, distracted by this kind of noise. These people are just noise makers. We need to be the newsmaker. We women will be the future of this country, and I'm very, very clear about it. And that is where we need to work on. And I concentrated my energies on this, but I would just tell the young girls who want to come on, come into this space, public spaces, forget politics alone. They could be in policy spaces, they could be, influencers on social media. Twitter, we see very few women, but it is time that women do not see that space also just because there are some 10 idiot trolls who want to say nasty things to you. Just concentrate on your energies, on what you want to be, where you want to be, how you want to be, and you are a witness, Kiran, to how we started, voicing our opinions on Twitter and how it just shaped our own personalities. So I would just tell them that just be there, fight this out, and we are empowered enough with lots of laws that can put these men behind bars, and we can even find those nameless, faceless voices and put them behind bars for the way they speak to us, because no woman deserves the kind of trolling abuse that Indians in general face, Indian women generally face. So that's one thing. The last thing I'd like to say, because many people keep asking COVID is the way women will be looked at. Before COVID too, we had women across political parties in Finland come together, form a government, and they're talking about paternity leave. Imagine, they thought that women will only talk about maternity. They're talking about men being equal partners in parenting. So they're talking about some visionary policies. Let's look at New Zealand. When the terror attack happened, you had the Prime Minister going out there, speaking to people and trying to reassure them that there cannot be a division in the society on the basis of religion, etc., on the basis of what the terrorists had gone and done. We're seeing in Germany, as far as COVID is concerned, touch wood, they have seen a low fatality rate and they've managed to control this well. So I believe that future of leadership is also women, political leadership is also women. It's just that we need to have faith, continue doing what we are doing, be fearless, and continue to be consistent.
It's a lovely conversation we're having. And are we running out of time, Shelley? Do we have?
No, I think we're good. I think one of the questions that's increasingly coming is, of course, the question on, the current coronavirus. And if both of you could talk about just the whole, the need for leadership in such moments, especially the images of migrant labor. Everybody on this chat is basically, driving home the point that we are in a state that, we're in a state of the nation at a time when we have this crisis, a pandemic that I suppose currently we haven't seen in the last, 6 to 8 decades. So if you both have sort of both political as well as just human answers to that.
Do you think we lost out on empathy in the whole handling of it is something that I'm very curious about. And is that something a woman would have brought to the table if there was a say in the matter?
I think the nation has become. I'm sorry, is that for Khushbu?
For both of you, anybody, go first. Khushbu? Yeah.
Okay. I think so when you talk about empathy,
Just hold your phone closer, Khushbu. We can't hear you very clearly. Just hold the phone closer. Slightly better now.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you will have to speak a little louder. Sorry about that.
I think what we have to understand is talk about empathy. I think even we have seen at the beginning of the case. We need to enhance the leadership there, controlling the crowd, with also human behavior. I think finding that we are not communicating with fighters. We what we have been facing world over. What we need to understand is we
I think there was a problem with the sound there. Khushbu, can you hear us now?
Yeah, but
Better.
your voice was coming slightly toned. We can't hear you, but it's slightly toned. The signal is very clean, though. We can see you very nicely.
I don't know. I'm trying. Okay, let me try. Is it better now?
Much better. Yeah,
Better?
Much
better,
better.
much better.
The one thing, really how we look at them, we need to understand that we have been talking about entities, we have seen disturbing images and videos which have been forwarded by everyone, trying to connect it to, how the police have been trying to, there's another charge, they have been very, very unfriendly over the people down the street. I think what we need to understand is even the police which is out there, we are not immune to this COVID-19. Even they are fighting against it, and yet when they see the out on the street, asking us, begging us to go back. So they're bound to use their patience according to the orders, and they're trying to do things. The problem is most of the people down the street are told to do things very fashionable to be given. That's the problem. They do not understand as to why people have been asked to stay indoors. They think it's very fashionable to be a rebel, and to rebel just for nothing, just to execute a pain. My heart goes out to those migrant workers, the daily wages, and I think they have almost 400 and 500 kilometers to reach home. They have not been provided with the basic facilities what they should have been given. Not go to it, but we need to understand that the police, yes, they have empathy, people, the police has to be more centralized in the entire issue. We see that the way is very disturbing with cops. They become completely so much that they think it's fine and doing they say that they're doing everything. I think that we need to stop and we need to tell them that these people need your support, they need your empathy, not your sympathy, but your empathy. You need to understand.
It's a very valid point. I think Priyanka, you had some. Is Priyanka around? Priyanka
No,
had some.
she's just reconnecting. But I think it's an important point that Kushbu makes that about, this is an unprecedented situation, and yeah, everyone's mind is certainly with those who have not been able to make it, at the right, if perhaps not at their homes, and are trying to transition from one place to the other. These are trying times, I suppose, for politicians and leadership as a whole across the country. Even as one sees these images, and of course the spreading nature of this coronavirus at this point, Kiran.
Yeah, absolutely. I think all of us in all our spaces are trying our best to figure out what are the best solutions for us as an individual level, at policy level. I think it's touch and go at the moment. We're still figuring out the ways to control this, and because the challenges we face primarily as a population are so complex and so diverse that it will take some
Yeah.
time to come underground. And let's hope our leadership rises up to it. And thank you so much, Kushbu, Shelley, for being here, for being part of this conversation. And let's hope we have more women coming up in front and more women representing us in Parliament soon. Thanks for the conversation, Priyanka. I think we lost you somewhere, but thanks for being here and thanks for sharing your insights. Thanks, ladies.
Before we sign off, would like to send a very strong message and very important message to people down the road. We have to understand that the government alone cannot fight this virus or the infection problem. We all have to stand united. If, as a political party, we see they've been blaming each other or trying to put the ball in somebody else's court. I think we all need to understand that this is the time when we need to stand united, and the government alone cannot work. We all have to abide by the rules that is set out by the government. Yes, there are flaws. Yes, there are mistakes. Yes, they should have given enough of time for the lockdown. But the times when we need to understand that urgency is important, and it is now. If we don't do it now, then we are really, really looking forward to a very, very what do you say? What they say that we are going to enter the third phase of this coronavirus, COVID-19. I think we need to fight that, and for that, we need to stand together and abide by the rules.
Can I ask you one question quickly, Khushbu? Because I think if you answer this, it'll really mean a great deal for a lot of people. As you said earlier, this is not the time to take things casually. Can you tell people how you're being careful about this, how you're exercising social distancing, and how you're trying to keep everybody in, stay at home, and so on? Maybe that'll inspire those who are sort of still venturing out.
I haven't ventured out of my gate since the lockdown has been announced by the Prime Minister. I've been at home. I've been washing my hands. My pets, the minute they go out, we have 4 of them
The minute they go out, they come to make sure that we wash their legs thoroughly and then bring them in. My kids are not allowed to go out. We have given my maids and the drivers, and we make sure that every time, wherever we are around the house, we go back, wash our hands before touching each other or touching the utensils or touching even a wall. You have to wash your hands with soap, because they say this virus is a very oily virus which sticks to your skin, sticks to the walls, or whatever you touch, it sticks to that. You have to wash your hands with soap. 20 seconds. Make sure that you close the tap, don't waste water, wash your hands thoroughly. We have already demonstrated. There are many celebrities, political leaders who have demonstrated how to wash your hands. Wash your hands and then touch anything else. It's not for you alone. It is for everybody around, your people, your family, your friends, and most importantly, I think, please make sure that you give off to your housemates and everybody else. Even they need a break.
So we're all enjoying our break. Thanks so much, Khushbu, for that. And thank you, ladies. And I hope everyone's paid heed to Khushbu and stay home, stay safe, wash your hands.
Apology for joining late. I'm little novice with all these electrical or whatever this technology, techs and gadgets. So it took me some time, I took me some time to figure it out how to get online.
No worries at all. No worries. It was lovely having you and lovely listening to your insights. Thanks so much. Thanks, Shelly. Thanks, Khushbu. Thanks, Priyanka and Absentia. Thanks for the conversation.
Yeah, great points. Thank you.
Bye-bye.